Hello and welcome to the second episode of White Dove Works. Today we're going to take a look at the second part of my wooden Norris plane build. Last time we finished by cutting out our paper template and gluing it onto a piece of walnut. After the glue has dried, we can start working out the rough shape. The first thing I'm going to do is drill 2 holes with a relatively large auger bit. This gives me some very well defined curves that are much harder to work out with a handsaw or files, and it's also a lot faster using the auger. So I'm drilling a hole here until just the tip of the auger bit shows through. Then I'm switching the whole thing and drilling another hole from the back. This prevents any tear out. Now I take my Ryobi saw and cut it down to the rough shape. I'll make sure to leave some excess material so that I definitely do not cut into my paper template. It never ceases to amaze me how a sharp saw cuts through the wood like a hot knife through butter. Now, I realized that I wasn't able to cover a whole lot about the design of the plane and the thoughts that went into the design. So if you are interested in how the Norris mechanism works or why I chose the shape and length of the body that I did and the way it's constructed, just leave me a comment below and I will consider doing a third video just talking about why the plane works the way it does and which thoughts and also experience I had with it, because right now, at the time of the release of this video, this plane is already in use for a little more than 1 year, so I can definitely cover up some things that I would do differently if I were to build another plane soon. Now I'll switch over to the chisel and remove all the excess material and bring it down closely to the paper template. This is indeed a lot faster than using a rasp or file, but you have to be careful with tear out, especially if you're working cross grain the way I do here. Yep, that's when it almost happened. I had to switch directions, cutting directions. Now I switch over to a rasp to get everything a little more rounded. Okay, here is the tote. Not finished yet. There is some more detail work that I have to do, sanding, removing all the scratches and marks from the file. But this is something that I did not cover on video. Here I'm laying out where to cut off the excess material of the plain body. So the length of the body is about the length of a Stanley number 5. I know it looks a lot shorter, but this is due to the dimensions of the tote, which is a lot larger than a typical Stanley tote. Now it's again time for a little more layout work. What I'm doing here is creating a large recess, and by this recess I'm able to glue my tote a lot lower into the body of the plane, and this makes working with the plane a lot more ergonomic, and it also allows me to grip my thumb screw of the Norris adjusting mechanism a lot easier. By this I'm able to adjust my plane while doing continuous strokes, similar to how you could do it with a Stanley number 4 or number 5. And I wanted to have a wooden hand plane that's capable of the same thing. That's why I cut away this large chunk of material, and now I'm creating a mortise where I will set the tote into so that it's fixed securely. Now it's time to chop out some material and create a mortise where I will set my tote into. Okay, now clamp the whole thing together. I also make sure that there aren't any gaps left that might look a little awful in the end. And then let it dry. Here we go. This is our fully functional wooden hand plane made of walnut. But there are still some edges, some sharp edges, that will need a chamfer. When doing chamfers, it's crucial that you first cut the chamfers along the grain, as I did here, and then do the cross-grain chamfering, as you can see me doing here with the chisel. Otherwise, you will get some serious tear out, especially with woods like oak or walnut. So always cut the chamfers along the grain first and then cross-grain. Final and favorite part of all time, oiling. It's always a little bit like breathing life into the wood the moment you touch it with a oily rag, and then afterwards waxing it. I use some Hermannsachse linseed oil, a German manufacturer, and I really love the smell and the way it becomes one with the wood. Same is true for the wax. That's also Hermannsachse, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love the smell. I love the way it feels once it's dried. And it really gives a protective coating to the wood. Now time for the final assembly. First the Norris mechanism in there, then the blade, then the thumb screw of the wedge to give tension to the wedge, and then put the whole thing together. Here we go. And finally, some nice shots of the finished plane. Enjoy. Now, the last thing I want to say is thank you for watching. Thanks for everyone who's commenting on my videos and for your encouraging words. I really, really appreciate it. See you next time.